Hobbs Shaw is out, and as of this taping is fresh at 72%, with the critics overall agreeing that if you know what you're in for, it delivers. Is this another case of so bad it's good, or is it actually good? Let's find out. Hi everyone, I'm Mark Ellis, and welcome back to the After Show. This is a spoiler-heavy show, so if you've not yet seen Hobbs Shaw, you have been warned, and I am thrilled to be joined by an all-star group of panelists here today. First up, she is film correspondent Nikki Novak.
Hi.
I am so excited. You're making your debut today.
Yes, I'm very excited.
That's right, and then also making his debut, he's a film critic for The Wrap and the LA Times, Carlos Aguilar. How are you, bud?
Thank you. Great. Excited to talk some fun scenes about this movie.
Yeah, this is a fun movie to talk about, and our returning champion via Skype in Atlanta. You know her from Pay or Wait. My buddy, Sharronda Williams is here. How are you, Sharronda?
I am doing just fantabulous today. How are you?
I'm great because we get to talk about Hobbs and Shaw, and it's just a big, dumb, fun action movie, in my opinion. So before we actually get into our first topic, which we love when y'all comment and chime in on each one of our topics, is this movie fresh or is this movie rotten? Carlos, I'm going to start with you. Is it fresh or rotten?
I think it's fresh. If you know that the ridiculous kind of amount of madness you're in for, and if you appreciate the banter between these two stars, I think you'll have a good time. I think that's what makes it fresh.
My vote is fresh as well, so we got 2-0. Sharronda, are you contributing to our freshness?
Of course, this movie was absolutely ridiculous. Of course it's going to be fresh.
Okay, Nikki, you're the last one.
I don't know what you're all talking about because I think it should be an award season contender.
Thank you.
Saying it's a fun popcorn movie. You're saying fresh for me too.
It is great. Fresh for me too, because I love when a movie advertises itself like, hey, this is what you're getting into.
Right.
So I'm still like the kid that was mowing everybody's lawn, saving up money to go to the movies. This movie sold me on what it was, and what I got the most out of this movie was the duo performances of The Rock and Jason Statham. I thought they were so much fun together. I thought they were comedy gold. The action was great. So, Nikki, I want to start with you.
Yeah.
Did the Statham-Rock combination live up to the hype for you?
I think it did, and I think, look, I don't think they would have a spinoff, even though they have huge star power. I think they knew it was going to work, and I think we all kind of knew it was going to work. And I love the two of them, but what I really loved was the addition of Vanessa Kirby, because I kind of felt like it was a trio through most of the movie, and I thought she really, I would never say she outshone them because they're both huge stars in their own right, but for me, to sort of jump into that universe and sort of go toe-to-toe, and there was a scene in the beginning where she and The Rock are sort of going across the table at each other, and I was just like, damn.
Yeah, it was fun watching her have fight scenes with them, Carlos, because I agree with Nikki. I think that for the bulk of this movie, you are following a trio, and it's fun to watch each one of them, so it's maybe not a two-star movie.
Right. I mean, I think that the animosity between them is really exciting, especially, I recall the scene in the airplane, sort of this kind of confined space in which they can really, punch each other, but the tension's there. And then you add the cameos, that are kind of very star heavy, and it makes for such a joyful, hate-love relationship between the two of them.
Yeah, Sharronda, I would agree with the panelists here on the couch. Are you as big a fan of The Rock and Jason Statham's chemistry as we are?
Yes, I really love their chemistry together. I still just have certain feelings towards Jason Statham's character, because justice for Heim, I just have to say that right there. It just really bothers me still. But outside of that, I think they have great chemistry. I could watch an entire 2-hour movie of them just insulting each other back and forth.
And then, how do you feel about the fight scene between The Rock and Vanessa Kirby? I mean, that was because we see her at the beginning of the movie and it's fun, and then you see her go toe-to-toe with The Rock and hold her own, and I'm like, wow, she really is delivering. She's living up to that Mission Impossible hype.
Yeah, so I agree with Nikki. I really love what Vanessa Kirby brought to this film, and she really held her own. And I love how she really commanded the attention in the scenes that she's not only fighting, Dwayne Johnson, but also too just throughout the entire film. I just thought she did a very fantastic job.
And so then you add Idris Elba to the mix, Carlos, and this is a guy who clearly could have just mailed in a performance and had a little bit of fun with it. I really got into his character, and I think I responded to it more than I thought I would.
Right, I mean, he goes full, mad scientist kind of type of villain, right? And I love the fact that we don't really get, into the specifics of this organization and the villains and the madness of it all. It's just him representing the evil that's chasing them. So I think that he just goes for broke in this performance.
Yeah, because it's a spoiler review, I can say this. Like, Nikki, at the end of the movie, when he's offloaded, and I'm like, we can save him. We have time.
It was emotional.
Yeah, I was like, no,
Right.
let him team up with Hobbs Shaw for the next movie.
We may have to save this, but I see him in the next one for that very specific reason.
Oh, we like go down and we like do some archaeological dig?
I think so, and I think it would be a tremendous loss to have this character just be a one movie kind of thing, because he actually, what I loved about it is in a lot of movies, not superhero movies, not so much, but in a lot of action movies, the villain doesn't necessarily partake in the action. Sometimes they're just sort of sitting back giving orders while all the other guys are doing it. But the fact that he was this cyber, Terminator type person, and I've seen him in a lot of movies, but I've never felt the presence that I felt from him in this movie.
Yeah, Carlos, do you agree with that take?
Yeah, I mean, he has this sort of vendetta, there's like the emotional component that he's a villain that has this master plan behind, but he also hates Jason Statham's character, right? So he goes for him.
Sharronda, you're on the same page. You want to see more of our biogenetically engineered super villain Idris Elba?
Are you kidding me? Of course I do. He had so much swag. The entire film, I was just like, I know that he is on the bad side, but if he is, I don't want to be right anymore. He plays a great villain. Even from when I was first introduced to him in The Wire, he just always plays a very charismatic villain.
All right, so we're having a good time talking about the movie so far, and we all like the performances. Here comes the first real curveball of the show. Nikki, I'm going to start with you. Does this movie prove in sort of an inverse way that The Rock is actually better when he has a co-star to play off of? Because his individual movies, you take something like a Skyscraper or something like San Andreas, Rampage, is not quite as high in the Tomatometer as a Central Intelligence or some of these other ones that he gets to team up with like Jumanji. So do you think that this is proof that The Rock needs a co-star to have a great film?
I don't, and I'll tell you why. I actually thought San Andreas really worked, and they did really well at the box office, and I think it was one of those movies, one of those so bad it's good movies, where it really was an enjoyable movie at the end of the day. Baywatch, not so much, but that was an ensemble. So you could argue, that was an ensemble. Zac Efron, those two together had great chemistry. I think it's more the storyline and the few misses that he's had, unfortunately, kind of have been in a row. So you feel it more than if there had been a hit and then a miss and then a hit. But then he did have Jumanji. But no, I think, you look at his following, and what he's really smart about doing is building his international following. And I think what he's doing right now is delivering what he thinks fans want, and he's said that before. So I think if he keeps going down that route of, I'm going to do these, action type films, you're going to have some misses, especially when you're in an era where it's so hard, if you're not in a universe, to establish a one-off.
Well, sure. I mean, if I put you in the lineage of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies or Stallone movies, there's a lot of misses, maybe arguably more misses than hits. Sharronda, if I drop you off in a movie theater and I say you can go see The Rock headline a movie by himself, or you get to go see him co-star with one of his either action or comedy buddies, which theater are you going into?
I mean, personally, I'm going to go into the comedy door. However, I think it's unfair to say that he can't command a movie with just himself. I do think that it's more of a understanding what you're getting yourself into. I think as an audience, we tend to take movies starring himself more seriously than if we hear Hobbs and Shaw or Central Intelligence. I think we expect to have this fun, enjoyable ride.
Yeah, Carlos, you on the same page? Would you rather see him team up in more of a comedic aspect?
I mean, I think that definitely works in this one. The banter between them is really fun, but he's a superstar. I feel like there's no doubt that when you see his name on that billboard, you want to see it. Even if it's not Hobbs & Shaw, even if it's not Rampage or whatnot, I feel like he commands the attention of the audience. And I was at the premiere for this movie, and there was a sort of like a moment in which there was an incident with fire, and they had to stop the movie, and he came out and kind of came to calm the audience.
Was this real fire, or was this like, hey,
it was real fire?
I was there too. It was an interesting
fire.
moment.
Wow.
Yeah, and he came out and commanded the audience and made it fun and kind of brought everyone back to an enjoyable, after the stressful kind of moment, he brought it back. So I think he's just people love him, and he could command it.
He almost made it better. I almost thought that they should have videoed that and just had an intermission for everybody watching it across the board and just insert that, because he did. He upped the ante, and then he sort of nobody else I think could do that.
Yeah, I mean the guy conquered the San Andreas Fault earthquake. I think he's pretty good with fire in a movie theater. So The Rock and Jason Statham, and then Vanessa Kirby as well, are your headliners of the movie. But I think a lot of people, Carlos, are responding to the cameos that we had. We had Ryan Reynolds. Kevin Hart, I thought, stole that entire airplane scene. Did you enjoy the cameos? Do you think they took away from the story? Where are you with that?
Oh, I love them. I definitely prefer the Ryan Reynolds character. I thought he was incredibly funny. I like to think that that's him in real life, really wanting to be The Rock's best friend, because it feels just so earnest and fun and, wild in his kind of antics to become his friend that, The Rock being such a superstar, I feel like there may be many actors out there that want to be his best friend. So I thought it was fun.
Sharronda, I'm watching that scene play out and I'm thinking this is exactly what The Rock and Kevin Hart's social media feud is like, and we got to actually watch that factor into the storyline a little bit, so I loved it.
The airplane scene, I literally yelled out loud. I screamed when I saw him in the first place. I love that entire sequence. And even with Ryan Reynolds, what I will say is after the first set of cameos, when the second round came in, I was just like, I'm kind of over it. I was happy with the first one. I don't know if we needed to go into the second one. It made me feel more as though they're going to introduce the characters into this Hobbs and Shaw franchise.
Yeah, so I'll give Rob Delaney a shout out too because he also makes a fun cameo. Nikki, which of the cameos do you think enhanced the film?
Kevin's was my favorite. I always love Ryan Reynolds, but I felt like Ryan Reynolds was doing Ryan Reynolds. Not that Kevin wasn't, but I felt like there was a couple moments that there was a few lines that I was like, oh, Ryan's really pushing almost a little bit.
Him and David Leitch have that great Deadpool rapport. So.
Yeah, I felt that. But I think that Kevin Hart was such a surprise. And I've now seen this movie 3 times. And I saw it the first time by myself, the second time at the premiere, and the third time with a lot of millennial influencers. So it was 3 totally different responses. But I will say in the premiere, and I'm sure you felt the same thing, when Kevin's face first appeared on screen, the place erupted, totally erupted. With Ryan, I think it was because it was towards the beginning, it was more like, oh, wow, it was more surprised. But I think Kevin really, I actually wanted to see one more scene with Kevin in the end. I wanted him to come in and save the day in the end. I wanted him to be the sort of person that came through with a key thing in the end that sort of helped him.
Could have flown a helicopter or something into that last scene in Samoa. There's one other sort of maybe kind of cameo that's at least rumored that we'll talk about later on in the show. But right now I want to get to the meat of Hobbs and Shaw, which is those incredible action set pieces. Like I said, David Leitch is a director here, Carlos, and he knows how to pull off action very well, both close hand-to-hand combat and then also these big, giant, it's just getting crazier and crazier every movie. So did the action live up to the hype for you?
Of course, yeah. The scenes are so ridiculous. You have to, commit to this disbelief, right? That nothing in this world functions like reality. They're almost like superheroes at this point. The kind of stunts they pull. So that final sequence with the trucks and the helicopter in Samoa is just so off the chain that, watching it in a big screen with a crowd of people is just such an emotional experience in a way that, watching it alone, it probably wouldn't work, but on a theater with that level of action is just so much fun. That
poor helicopter, Nikki, at the end. I mean, that thing goes through so much.
By the way, that wasn't CGI. The Rock actually did that.
He actually did all that stuff. He hired the best towers in the business to get their chains exactly connected to the truck.
Right.
Do you think that this was the best action that we've seen in a Fast and Furious or Fast and Furious Presents movie?
I wouldn't say it was the best. See, for me, it was sort of a two-parter. Some of it felt like the sort of close-up, the slow-mos felt very David Leitch. It felt very Atomic Blonde or, what he's done in the past. And then the sort of big action set pieces like the helicopter and that felt very Fast and Furious to me. So they felt like 2 different things and very 2 different elements. In terms of the big action, if it wasn't for the last helicopter bit and the Rock, because that's what I love about Fast and Furious. I want to suspend my belief and I want to enjoy those moments that you could never. It's almost superhero-esque.
It really is.
In a way. But I felt like David Leitch did what he does really well, and I love those sort of close-up, and I love the 2 3-way fights that we've had, because I don't think we've seen that before in cinema, and I think it just really pulled that off as well.
So you said something very interesting, and Sharronda, I want to get your take on this. So it's kind of like these blockbuster movies are becoming more and more superhero films, so it's almost like you can incorporate them into the MCU seamlessly.
Right.
Sharronda, do you like this trend that it's becoming more like a Marvel movie every time you go see one of these blockbusters, particularly a Fast and Furious movie, where they were just street racers. Back when I was a kid, they were just living their lives a quarter mile at a time and souping up some Honda Civics, and now they're literally stopping genetically engineered viruses that are perpetrated by super bad guys. Are you a fan of this trend with the Fast and Furious films?
I definitely am. I think I mean, there's been so many movies. You have to start evolving. You have to start introducing these new, even more ridiculous and crazy concepts into the film. I mean, The Rock literally jumps out of a building and like scales a building down a rope. Like, you should not have a hand, you shouldn't have an arm, but it was cool watching him do it. I love the action in it. I don't think that it fully lives up to the absurdity of the Fast and Furious movies. I think I've seen better, more crazier, unrealistic things happen. But I had a great time watching it.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the cars going out of the airplane again anytime soon. That's pretty crazy. I would not parachute with a car. Friendly, helpful tip for all you kids at home. Carlos, your favorite action scene in this movie, which one did you dig the best?
I think it's that one by far. When I talk about the one in Samoa, I mean the beginning with the kind of like combat with the old school weapons.
I love that.
I think that's very interesting and sort of like brings it back down to, not using guns and kind of like the man on man. So the beginning of that and then going into the trucks and the airplane and, sort of like this big finale, I think just brings it home because it has a cultural element as well, which I think elevates the franchise.
Yeah, and I like the final little fist fight that we had at the waterfall, just because it was, it was a little on the nose, but it's like, hey, Hobbs and Shaw, they finally realized if they work together, they're going to be able to, and that's the only way they're going to be able to defeat this villain. The only real complaint I've heard about any of the action is that it started to drag the film down a little bit. Does anybody feel that way, that maybe we could have used a little less action?
I actually felt like, I know the movie's very long, and that's a critique that I've heard, that it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, it could have been shorter. There wasn't anything I disliked about it. There wasn't anything that, other than I think that sort of opening sequence, before you see them side by side in the morning getting their coffee and their very different ways of getting ready for work, there was sort of a sequence where they both sort of go after, like, where's the virus? And they fight a bad guy, and, The Rock tattoos the thing on the guy's head, and I felt like you didn't need that. I felt that whole sequence you didn't need. I think you could have set it up, almost started the film off with the side-by-side of them getting ready. I don't think you needed that whole bit because it didn't really add anything to the film, and I feel like the two big sort of second and third act set pieces were enough.
Sharronda, you agree with that? Do you think we could have lost that little breakfast/gym montage at the beginning, or what part of the film felt the most out of place to you?
I like the intro because it just establishes how different they are. But for me, while watching the film, I literally thought the movie ended 3 different times. I was like, okay, it's about to end. Let me get my stuff together. And I was like, no, there's like a whole nother set piece that we have to go through. So for those moments, it did drag for me. It wasn't necessarily, it had too much action. It was just a little bit too much going on from like a storyline. It felt as though they were trying to check all of the beats of what a Fast and Furious movie is. We have to have family. We have to have conflict. I just think that they had a little bit too many ideas with Hobbs and Shaw that could have been left on the cutting room floor.
Carlos, do you think we could have trimmed some of the fat off this movie?
Maybe a little bit. I go back to the scene, the Mexican actress, Isa Gonzalez, is in the film for like 1 second. And I feel like either, they could have chosen to use her character more or cut it out entirely. Because it just feels like she's just introduced briefly, very quickly, even though she's on the poster and she's kind of like, being, held as part of the movie. She's very, for a brief moment in the film. So for me, it was either cut it or expand that character.
That's a great point. She was like the Captain Phasma of this movie, where it's like you're on a lot of the artwork, and then it's like, oh, you showed up and goodbye. I personally like the breakfast montage just because that's 2 different ways of waking up than I'm used to.
That's a part I wish they kept in. I wish that was the opening scene of the movie and cut out the action-y part. Yeah. I
mean, I'm not doing what The Rock does. I'm not waking up at 6 a.m., first of all. Mine would be like 10:30 a.m., and I'm not going to the gym, and I'm not making myself a frittata. I'm just sitting in line at Starbucks like the rest of us. So I have some work to do before I look like The Rock or Jason Statham or decide to save the world. So our last topic here today is a question more about the future of Fast and Furious, or Fast and Furious Presents. And Sharronda, I want to go to you first on this. Is this the way that you would like to see the Hobbs and Shaw characters continue their adventures? Do you want this to stay away from the main franchise? Because there's just little winks and nods, and that's really it. This really felt like it's its own film.
Yeah, I definitely think that it should stay separate. And I think that the only way that they can really bring this together is to really handle the whole justice for Heim. Yes, I am going to bring that up again because it's very important to me. But I do think that it needs to stay separate. But I do think that even Hobbs and Shaw has a lot of spinoff potential. I want to see a movie with Helen Mirren just basically telling her kids like what they need to help her steal next. I think that there's so many characters that they've introduced into this franchise that I want to see it expand. I want to see more, not only of just them, but the people that they're kind of in contact with as well.
Yeah, Nikki, do you think that Vin Diesel's getting a little nervous? Like, we got this whole other spin-off franchise that maybe doesn't need to be incorporated into future Fast and Furious films.
I think he's just fine. I think he's doing just fine. I think, they're keeping things very separate. They've sort of made their mark here. What I like about this is they've gone in sort of many different directions with this film. It felt a little Mission Impossible. It felt a little Fast and Furious. It felt a little old school buddy cop. So I feel like they can sort of hone in on what really worked, and it can really go in any direction. And you think about the Fast franchise, how it evolved. I'd like to see them go more over the top with cameos, more over the top with their relationship. Even the family stuff with The Rock, I don't think was explored enough. I think Asa Gonzalez could even come back. There's potential for Idris. So there's a lot of different ways they can go, and hopefully they'll go in the right one.
Yeah, and Carlos, Nikki made the point earlier that it felt like maybe some of the individual scenes felt different than a normal Fast and Furious movie, partially because it is director David Leitch, and like you said, your cameos, he's got Ryan Reynolds, is it? Rob Delaney pops in from Deadpool 2. And when you look at this, is that how you'd like the films to continue, or do you want to see them just take this and the events of this movie and mash them right into the next Fast and Furious film?
I think they're going to probably expand this universe on its own a little bit, kind of like what Marvel did with each of the characters, and then bring it back together for an Avengers type of film with all the Fast and Furious characters and the ones that they've introduced here. So I think, to me, that's probably where the franchise is going to, make a couple more movies in this franchise, maybe develop another one with another character, and then bring them all together.
Okay, so you want to see them spin this off a little bit further,
right,
and then maybe have a giant, like, Avengers Infinity War Endgame reuniting of everything. Sharronda, where do you want to see the Hobbs and Shaw franchise go from here?
I just wanted to see it expand bigger and bigger. I want to definitely see more women. I thought they did a very great job with Vanessa Kirby's character, just to see that expand and not just be a damsel in distress situation, which they didn't do in this movie. But I do want to see them introduce more characters, and I would love to see like this big, just finale with everyone. And even like the previous, can we get some like Tokyo Drift people even to just like pop back in as well? I would be very happy to see that too.
So justice for Tokyo Drift now as well. Nikki, I'm going to give you carte blanche. We got the Fast and Furious movies. We have the spinoff with Hobbs and Shaw. Any other franchises that you want to see be mixed into this world, into that cookie batter, as we progress down this blockbuster combination film route?
To be mixed in with the Fast and Furious?
Sure, I'll give you something as easy as maybe a John Wick or something on that order.
Yeah, well, you gave me an easy answer, because I think there was some Keanu Reeves rumors that he was going to be in this film, and if David Leitch continues to direct, there's no reason why he couldn't. You just gave me my answer, basically.
Well, good, because it also sets up our next little point here, is that there's a lot of rumors going around. That voice that we hear that is helping, control everything and giving Idris his kind of marching orders is actually the voice of Charlize Theron, who was Cypher in Fast and Furious 8. Now, I heard a contradicting report from somebody who saw a very early test screening that, in fact, that voice was done by Keanu Reeves.
That's what I heard, too. And I really hope, and I hate saying this, but I did not love the Charlize character. So I'm hoping it's not her. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. I thought, I don't know. She just didn't fit into the franchise to me, and the performance just didn't compel me to want to see more.
Okay, so we'll keep her buried. As far as Nikki goes, Carlos, what do you hope the fallout is from the voice? Like what is going to happen with the voice?
I think it would make sense for it to be Charlize if they want to blend these two franchises, right? Rather than introduce Keanu Reeves, which would make sense also because of the director. But if you want to kind of like a seamless, or at least claim that you had a connection always from the beginning, it should be Charlize, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. Okay,
Sharronda, we've given you 2 great nominations for where the voice could go. Who is doing the voice? What is your ideal voice scenario?
I'm going to go for Keanu Reeves, because Charlize, she's very capable, but if they bring her back, they really need to give her more to do, make her a more convincing villain.
Okay, well, as we close up shop here, I do need to go around the horn really quick and just ask y'all your favorite Fast and Furious film. Sharronda, I'm going to start with you. You can throw Tokyo Drift at me if you want. I have not seen Tokyo Drift. I think it's the one that I have not seen yet, so I apologize in advance. What is the best Fast and Furious film?
For sentimental reasons, I have to go with Fast and Furious 7. If I want to say the one that like really brought the whole franchise back, it would be 5.
Yeah, absolutely 5. I'm still going with Fast 5. I think that was the best of the little street racing movies that we knew and these huge, giant, world-saving blockbusters. I like that that was the best combo of the two. Carlos, which way are you going?
I think I'll go with the first one. I feel like it was such a landmark kind of film in terms of introducing this concept that, who would have thought that 20 years later we'll be still talking about it. So I feel like the first one, set up the groundwork for a film, for car fans or action fans, and then develop into something huge. So I'll go with the first one.
It all goes back to that first film, Nikki. I have a buddy who got married, and in his wedding vows included Fast and Furious quotes from the very first film. And they're still happily married to this day. Yes, Corona was served at the reception. Best Fast and Furious film of all time. You have the last word.
I'm going to be really boring. 5, I think, sort of took it in a different direction, the direction that I love, but 7 was my favorite.
All right,
Yeah.
So we got a vote for 7, a vote for 5, and a vote for the original. And I think we all voted fresh for Hobbs and Shaw. It's in theaters now, so if you have not already checked it out and you watched this full review, go see it and then come back, comment right now. Let us know your thoughts on Hobbs and Shaw. Was it the best action you've seen in the franchise? Do you love The Rock and Statham together? How about those cameos? And where do you want to see the franchise go from here? That's going to do it for us today on the After Show. Make sure you subscribe to the Rotten Tomatoes YouTube channel and hit that bell. It's going to give you an alert every time we have a new After Show for y'all. Thanks to my incredible panelists. I'm merely Mark Ellis, and we'll see y'all real soon here at the After Show.